Welcome to the setup of Google Search Console. Now, in order to get things ready, there's a few things that you should have already available. Having a Google account will allow you to be able to set up your Search Console. If you're an agency, you might already have an agency email associated with a Google account that you set up all of your clients' Google accounts with. So in this situation, I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you exactly how to set up Google Search Console. Now what I've done here is just search for, if you just Google search Console, it'll be the first result that you'll see. You can also see my URL address, search.google.com/search-console. It's the same thing. Once you get here, as I said, you should be signed in with a Google account that you want to use. Now we're going to assume that we need to start off and add a new property. When you want to add a new property, assuming I have properties that are shown there, and that's why it automatically came to my Google Search Console dashboard. But first, what you want to make sure of is that this is probably if you've never signed in to Google Search Console, this is likely the screen that you'll see. As soon as you come to the screen, you'll see two choices. You'll select a property type. You can select one with domain that allows you the ability to create subdomains or include subdomains as well. You can also include all URLs, so anything that you might have secured, HTTPS, or maybe you might have some other URLs that are HTTP which are not secured. This requires DNS verification. And then you might also want to try and use a URL prefix. In the situation, you would use a URL prefix if it is a very specific area within maybe a very large site that you're going to be optimizing. For example, if it's an e-commerce website that has 5,000 pages, but you are only responsible for 1,000 or 2,000 pages in a shop section of that very large website, then you would use the URL prefix that allows you to specifically manage that one specific area of that website. So in this situation, I'm going to choose the domain. So what I'll do is I will add a website here. It'll see that domain ownership has not yet occurred. And so now gives you a couple of different ways that I can verify this domain ownership. So one way is to use a TXT, which is recommended. Another way is to use a CNAME. CNAME would allow you to, both of these things requires you to access the DNS area within your hosting provider. So I'm going to choose the TXT method, which is the simplest. So what it basically has you do here in this situation, you are selecting the TXT record method. You then need to sign in to the domain name provider that you've used, whether it's Namecheap or GoDaddy. I use Cloudflare. And so in this situation, I'll just show you what that looks like. So I'm going to copy this record here. And then I'm going to go up to, now I'm just giving you an example, but I've actually already done this. I'm just going to do it again for you here. You would then access your DNS records in the DNS settings. And then what you want to do is add a record. This gives you the ability to add any type of record. There's a variety of types of records. The CNAME, as I said, is listed here. And then also the TXT is what we actually are looking for specifically. In this situation, again, following the instructions from within your DNS, within your hosting provider, but it's pretty standard and straightforward for no matter what platform that you're using. So I'm using @ because I'm using the actual domain specifically for the root. And then I'm just pasting in the Google site verification. I click Save here. And then once I do that, I will see in this situation, I already have it listed in here. My Google search, I've already done this. I've already added that. You click save, and then it automatically is saved in there. You go back to verify. You click the verify. Now, because I did it on a different domain, you might see the verification failure message, in which case that just means it might need a little bit of time. Generally speaking, it doesn't take that long for Google to be able to access that TXT record, and then you're all verified. Now I'll show you on a test site that I like to use, sort of the benefits from an SEO standpoint. This is one of the best tools, as I mentioned, that you could possibly use to really optimize your site from an SEO program. If all you do is use Google Search Console and Google Analytics, you can have a wealth of information that you can leverage to inform that SEO strategy that you will use for that website. Now, on the left side, there's a lot of information. As I said, it used to be called Google Webmaster Tools. There's a lot of the things that are pulled in from the old Google Webmaster Tools, and a lot of things that are brand new and just unique to Search Console. One of the first areas that you'll, as an SEO, you'll really want to kind of go in here from an overview standpoint and look at Search Console at least on a weekly basis, because you really need to understand how the site is being crawled, whether there's any crawl-related errors that are occurring. If Google is unable to access certain page or pages within the website, you will get alerts and notifications, and you will see all of those that will be listed in the messages area is usually up here in the bell area. And it'll actually tell you what the coverage problems are, whether there's any mobile usability issues or what have you. All of those will be listed there. So on the left side, as you see the overview, this is just your main dashboard. From a performance perspective, you'll see how it's doing in terms of how many clicks to the website it's getting. From an indexation standpoint, you'll understand, are those pages in your website actually indexed? You'll see how many pages are in the index, 15 in this situation, and how many are not. And then you can also learn why those pages are not in the index. For example, if you're working with a client, or if you are an SEO of a particular site and you can't understand why traffic has fallen off or why there may be a problem, one of the first troubleshooting places I go to is always Google Search Console. And I come right to the indexation section to really see which of those pages I might be having a problem. I'll then go to what is not indexed, and then I'll check specifically what pages are not in the index. If it's something is excluded by a no index tag, it'll be denoted here in the excluded by no index tag section. Now, generally, I recommend putting no index tags on certain areas of my site if it is an opt-in form or something, a sales page or something like that. And that's when I will always go through and make sure that those, and there are some checkout pages here that would be no indexed in that situation. I want to see all the submitted pages. I want to see, if I go back to pages again, and all the index pages are highlighted, you'll see here how many are indexed and how many are not indexed. As I said, Google Search Console will always tell you why the pages aren't indexed. And not only that, it'll also provide you with a whole list. In many cases, what I'll do with developers is I will just export this into a Google Sheet, share that with my development team, and I will walk them through exactly what we need to do. If we need to change in this situation, we need to put in a correct canonical tag. I will denote that in my Google Sheets, my recommendations for that developer, so that they know exactly what it is they need to do. This is why just looking in just this pages section alone is a huge help to many SEOs. Now, back to the overview. Again, you can come in here on a daily or weekly basis just to check to see how things are going. after the indexation, experience is also become a very, very important aspect to how Google looks and views at a number of different pages. It wants to understand the mobile usability, the page experience, and core web vitals. Those are all contained in the experience section. In the performance area, this is where you're going to really see what I include in all of my monthly reports for my clients is we want to see performance on a month-to-month basis. And so one of the really great things is that you can see average position, you can see click-through rate. You can also see the number of impressions or the number of times a page has appeared in Google's index. You can see all of those things here. I also love using the query section, and as your site grows and as it expands, you will see over time the top search queries that people are using to where Google is bringing up pages in your website. This is a great place to do your keyword research, to pull in, to understand how many impressions, how many clicks am I getting, what's the click-through rate, and understanding. Now, these are never exact positions because none of this data from Search Console is in real time. However, we can still leverage this information that we've gained from Google to inform us, to help inform our strategy moving forward. Back on the left side again, we have URL inspection. So anytime that a page is not appearing in Google's index, or you're just not sure if Google has crawled it and rendered it, you can actually put the URL listed in here. And I'll just do that as an example. And Google will try and retrieve it from its index, and it'll actually tell you it's not in. Now, I don't think I even have such a page, but it will tell you it's not on Google. And you can request indexing. And then it's going to then test to see if this is a live URL that can actually be indexed. If it is, it will actually tell you, and then it will submit it in to sort of a queue so that the next time it goes, it's not going to be immediate, but the next time Google will crawl your site and find it, it will actually crawl and then consider that into its index. Now, as I said to you, this is not a real URL that I use. So in that situation, Google has denied or rejected my indexing request. Next, you want to go down the pages. And this is, as I said, we'll see all the pages that are indexed. We can see pages that are not indexed. It's a nice overlap to see how many are and aren't. A good indicator as to whether you've got duplication is when you have, let's say, 100 pages. Let's just use simple math. Let's say there are 100 pages in your website, but Search Console is showing that there's 5,000 pages. That's a pretty big indicator that there's probably some duplicate content going on in your website. And then you should really go and export that file to really identify any duplicates. It could be that there are mixed use case URLs. It could be that you have other URLs that should be canonicalized to a single URL. It could also be that you may have a non-www and a www version that are not redirecting to one or the other. So there's many different scenarios in which you could find yourself having duplication issues in that sense. Next is video pages. So what's really great about the video pages now, this is a relatively new area within Google because, of course, we've got YouTube. We've got a lot of YouTube videos, or just 3 in this small site example, that are actually indexed. And this is where Google will show you. There were 2 of them in August, and then in September, there was a 3rd that was placed in there. It'll give you some more specific data. It'll tell you exactly where in the website that those videos were placed and the video URL. And then it'll show you the actual URL here. And then the last crawl date. Sitemaps is the place where you want to include your XML sitemap. An XML sitemap is only for search engines. It is not meant to be read at all by users. The users would read an HTML sitemap that might be placed on a website. The XML sitemap is a great opportunity to really ensure that Google has accessibility and visibility into all the pages that you want to have Google access and eventually index. Now, you don't want every single page. Again, if I use a very large e-commerce website, maybe I don't want 10,000 pages necessarily in my XML sitemap. Maybe there's a lot of pages in there about the company that are not important to a business sale or a business conversion perspective. So in that situation, I want to be very sure about the different types of URLs I want included in my XML sitemap. Certainly, I want my products and any important categories within those products to be indexed. Any services that I might offer, all of those URLs that are important to being crawled and indexed and certainly found by a prospective client are those are the URLs that I really care about and I want to make sure are in my XML sitemap. Your XML sitemap should always live off the root of your domain, and when you have created a new sitemap, you simply just put in, as I have done here, you just put the address in, and then it'll tell you it was processed successfully. You can then see the index coverage. Again, it'll take you right back to the pages section of the index. This is interesting, well, not interesting, but removals is an area that you can temporarily remove content if there's outdated content and safe search filtering. All these three areas have been changed since Google Webmaster Tools. Generally speaking, a URL removal request would occur if there is a specific piece of content you do not want to remain in the index. Now, there's a few things we would do first. First, we would put a no index meta tag on that page. We would then go to the robots.txt file and ensure that there is a disallow for that specific page listed so that Google can't crawl and find that page. Then, as a last resort, I would then put a new request in to put that specific URL and make sure that Google will pull it out of its index. Now, here's something really important to note, that Google search will take this out for about 6 months. And that's the reason why this is not a be all and end all to. When you use this, do not abuse it. Make sure that when you're trying to eliminate that URL, you're using it for the reasons I just stated. The best way to get a URL out of Google's index is to put a no index meta tag on it, then to disallow it from being crawled in robots.txt. And this, as I said, is your last resort. Page experience is the next area. Again, this is a pretty new website, so there's not a lot of information here. But as your site matures and grows, you're going to start seeing over the course of a period of 90 days, from a mobile and desktop perspective, that page experience overview. You'll also have access to core web vitals and mobile usability. These are things that you will become familiar with as you go through and optimize that website and as you access your Google Search Console on a regular basis. We also have security and manual actions. This is really just for Google to indicate to you that there is no spam, there are no issues specifically that Google has taken with your site. It has not de-indexed the site. It hasn't banned the site in any way. So it's informing me here that there are no issues detected. I also do the same thing with security issues. There are no manual actions. There are no security issues. And so this is a good thing to check on a regular basis. Also, Google does do legacy tools and reports. And it's not accessible here because I did not have Google Webmaster Tools set up on this previous domain, or it would show me some legacy information. There's also the ability to get some link information. Now, when it comes to link building or link auditing, it is a good idea to use Google Search Console to really understand all of the external links, all of the internal links. If there are any broken internal links, you'll get that information here. You'll see what the top linking sites to your website are, and then top linking text. This is anchor text specifically with regards to what is the text written that is actually hyperlinked back to your website. And finally, is the settings area within Google Search Console. And in the settings area, there's really not much to really look at here, except to show that I am a verified owner. I have users and permissions set for just me. I could also add, if I wanted to, we can add another user. We just need to add a valid Google account email, and then we can determine what level of ownership that they should have. They can either be a full owner, we can restrict them to certain areas, or we can just make them another owner with permissions here. This is a situation in which if you are a consultant or you're working at an agency, the client might give you some restricted access, or they may, generally speaking, give you full access. Also, it'll show you the crawl stats. This is also really helpful. It'll show the number of crawl requests in the last 90 days. You can also pull open a report and it'll show you all of that. It'll also give you the indexing crawler used, in this situation, Google Desktop. And then it'll tell you when the property was actually added to the account. You can also remove the property if you decided for whatever reason you needed to remove the property. Thank you for learning with me. By now, you should have a real good understanding as to how to set up Google Search Console, how we use Google Search Console for the purposes of optimizing our website or a client's website. Here, you've also learned the benefits of making sure that you can leverage the data you get from Google Search Console that should really help inform your SEO strategy.